So this video is sponsored by Skillshare. More about them later on. Now, if I were to ask you, what will be your goal when you put money into the stock market? So we want to pick companies that make us money at the end of the day. It's hard to build conviction behind a company if you don't even know what their end game is. So, if I pose the question to you, what is Alibaba's end game? So to give you the politically correct answer, Alibaba's mission and vision is to make it easy to do businesses anywhere, enabling people to meet, work, and play at Alibaba. Essentially, Alibaba seeks to become the underlying backbone of China's economy. So why do I say so? Over the last 20 years, they've been diligently innovating and expanding the baseline infrastructure to enable all these different small, medium enterprises to flourish in China. So for all my astute viewers who try to pick businesses on a daily basis, I believe that most of you have a greater appreciation of how important the SME economy are to the broader economy, especially one that houses 1.3 billion people. Billion with a B, by the way. If you were to draw lessons from the United States, like how they always brand Chinese being great copycats, meow, not ashamed to have that branding, by the way. Today, the United States has managed to build one of the most successful economies in the world. You know what else will make both you and I successful? Smashing that like button, of course. So don't forget to smash that little sneaky like button. Anyway, a key tenet of their success was really the underlying flywheel and multiplier they spent decades to cultivate. So in Economics 101, the multiplier effect is easy to understand. When an economy has an extremely high multiplier, every injection of capital will lead to a higher than proportion increase in net effect in net income. When the players in the economy, like you and I, are excited and are extremely happy to consume and spend our money, it will drive up demands for goods and even services. Suppliers, on the other hand, will be more than happy to hire more staff to produce more goods, and this increases employment and more disposable income in the aggregate. And those additional income will be spent achieving an overall positive reinforcement cycle. So we can also understand why it is to the advantage of the United States to keep funding their growth with cheap debt. Now, the question is, what about China? If I were to pull out the value of private consumption per capita worldwide in 2017, the US is undoubtedly ranked number 1, sitting at around 40,000, while China is only at a measly 3.3 thousand. Yes, we can argue that US has a far superior governance model, superior economy, superior capital markets, and the list goes on. But I believe, like many backholders here, we inevitably get excited with the amount of potential we can harvest in the Chinese economy today and moving forward, and by extension, benefiting Alibaba in the long run, especially so when it dominates the entire e-commerce scene. So it doesn't take a genius to essentially figure out that given the sheer population size, because China has 4x the population, their spending per capita just have to be 1/4 of the Americans, and they would exceed them in terms of absolute spending. So back in 2017, this percentage was only at 8%. Furthermore, during the pandemic, the Politburo has also come to the consensus that it was an opportune time to pivot the entire Chinese economy while ironing out its interdependence on the world stage. Henceforth, the introduction of this economic policy called dual circulation back in 2020. So long story short, Xi was just trying to stress and prioritize internal circulation, which means the attempt to strengthen their domestic consumption engine rather than solely relying on their export economy. Sure, there has been a huge deal of challenges, especially throughout 2022, but I don't think transitioning an economy is an easy feat to begin with. So I'll leave it up to you to decide in whether they have the ability to achieve their ultimate goal. But if they do, what role do you think Alibaba will play in this entire China story? And where would Alibaba be at in the coming 5, 10, or even 15 years? On the moon, of course. So I think Alibaba's current core China e-commerce business positioning cannot be better. But, a huge but here, of course, it's going to be a tumultuous journey ahead as they sort all the kinks and the nuances out in China bit by bit. So just a bonus kicker for those of you that are still watching. So based on 2020 figures alone, Taobao and Tmall's GMV, which represents gross merchandise value, which measures the volume of goods sold on that platform, sits at 1.2 trillion USD, while Amazon is at 475 billion. Remind me again who has world presence, and remind me again who presumably have a richer customer base. I'll let your imaginations fill the gap. So, this is just the first of 3 pillars for Alibaba's endgame. You know what is our endgame? Of course, it is to wake up a better and smarter person compared to yesterday. So introducing today's sponsor, Skillshare. So Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of online classes for all sorts of topics. They have a wide range of topics from personal finance to productivity and even how to start your very own YouTube channel like I did. So like investing, I think the biggest asset in your life is not your stock portfolio or even your property. It's yourself. So like everyone else, where we are at home, we always have the inertia and procrastination kicks in. So right now, I'm taking a class from Thomas Frank with regards to productivity and how to build habits that last. So as Skillshare is sponsoring this video, the first 1,000 people to use the link down in the description below or my code TAYCHIKENG will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare Premium membership. With that, let's get back to Alibaba's endgame. Now, moving on to the second pillar. It will be eerily similar to the first, but this time around, we are branching into the international stage. So I believe given the meteoric rise of Shopee, which is Sea Limited's e-commerce arm, it doesn't take a genius to figure out how underpenetrated and how much potential the Southeast Asia and the Latin America market provides. That being said though, I have to confess that the track record of Lazada, which is Alibaba's international core commerce arm, is lackluster at best. So they lost their market leader position and is essentially trying to play catch up now. So this is just based on my own intuition, but it does seem like the story is currently evolving. Initially, Alibaba might not have placed much emphasis in the Southeast Asia region, probably because they were being slightly complacent with their current market dominance, and also they probably felt that the markets were not matured enough, hence the rather laid-back attitude. Presently though, just back in December of last year, they unveiled ambitious objectives for Lazada, targeting a long-term goal of quintupling the GMV to $100 billion from their current 21 billion GMV in the last 12 months. So they did not specifically outline a timeline, but it does seem like they are getting slightly more serious about this entire market here. Furthermore, given the short-term headwinds back at home, growth from the international markets are very much needed to offset all those said pressures back in China. Lastly, to complete the trifecta, how can we not mention its cloud business? I think we don't need much explanation about the importance and the role cloud plays in the upcoming decade. So since we don't have to argue that cloud is important, then we have to make the case as to why Ali Cloud will be the one. So I've personally come across a few heated debates and arguments between both users and also engineers, developers, comparing their experiences between Tencent versus Ali Cloud. So as outsiders, we do not have a feel and touch of those said product offerings. So the only way we can track is via financial metrics. So things like profitability, market share, margins, etc. Sure, we can have people screaming at the top of their lungs on why they think Tencent has a superior product. But as investors, we let numbers speak for themselves. So Alibaba is currently ranked 4th on the world stage, behind the likes of Amazon, Microsoft and Google, while ranking 1st in their own local markets. So will they continue with this lead? Only time will tell. But I can probably assure you that they won't go down without a fight because they know that this is their next growth curve. So if they don't take advantage and they don't exploit of this new market trend, the company will essentially be a lame duck. So to end off, I had an interesting discussion with a friend about describing Alibaba as an investment, and as much as I hate to admit it, Alibaba's success is intrinsically tied to the success of the Chinese economy by and large, and by extension, the embodiment of CCP and its policies. So if you're buying into Alibaba, you're placing your bets on the wisdom of the senior Chinese officials. So with that, I'll see you in the next video, but more importantly, I will see you on the moon. Goodbye!